It's a people, it's a community, it's a life, it's a heart, it's a spirit.
Question: the heck would you want a picture of a tattoo of $1,000 on your penis for?
What makes this book so relevant, even though it was written over 100 years ago, is that it's about terrorism.
The work, sex, cars, bars, broads.
And with children, it's building on what they have. They have great imagination.
Dementia is not a diagnosis. It's a set of symptoms.
And he kept explaining to me that I wasn't gay. That you cannot be gay. You just cannot.
The main thing is to be open and honest and be, true to yourself.
Hi, and welcome to Talking About. We've got a special live program tonight, and my guest is Arnie Razumny of Samaritan Village. We're going to be discussing addiction and recovery. Well, I just said of Samaritan Village. Briefly, what is Samaritan Village, and what exactly is your role?
Samaritan Village is a substance abuse treatment program that's been around for approximately 45 years. We started out as a storefront in Astoria and now have facilities throughout New York, every borough excluding Staten Island. We have a large facility in upstate New York in Ellenville. And we provide substance abuse treatment to approximately 800 residential through 800 residential beds and about another 400 outpatient slots. My role is currently I'm the Assistant Vice President of Development. Prior to that, I worked for about 10 years in the admissions department. But I'm very proud of the fact that even before my employment here, I was a client at Samaritan Village.
Okay, just like Cy Sperling. Not just the vice president, also a client.
Right. I don't know why we had to go to the hair joke, but I'm sure you'll
more of a
understand.
side joke. Yeah.
Yes, I was not only a client, but now am the vice president. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, how difficult is it for you to come out and say that on television?
It's an interesting question. Part of my mission is to bring a face to addiction. Many of us are aware of the high-profile celebrities that have had substance abuse problems, the Robert Downeys, the Darryl Strawberries, most recently Rush Limbaugh.
And Britney's probably headed toward...
Yeah, really. Right, with her marriage and divorce, I would imagine. Those people are the ones that the public sees, and for a moment or two it brings a spotlight to addiction and recovery. I like to think that by being an executive manager in a large organization and openly declaring the fact that I'm in recovery might help break the stigma of addiction and give people pause to think about what recovery looks like.
Do you think that there's still as much of a stigma as there used to be?
Yeah, I really do. I think that the public has a general perception of what addicts are. Some of them are accurate. They are individuals with their lives that are out of control. I think what the public doesn't realize is how many people are actually in recovery now. Because unless you declare yourself in recovery, no one will know. So it's hard to get the public on board with the fact that treatment works, recovery is an ongoing process, and that the people in the cubicle next to you may be in recovery, your chairman of the board may be in recovery, your auto mechanic may be in recovery, unless they declare it. I think if people began to step out of that darkness as recovering people and into the light, it would go a long way from changing the public perception and then moving the political perception of what recovery and treatment is.
Okay, and I want to remind our viewers that we do want you to come out and step into the light and give us a call. We are taking calls tonight at 718-460-9802. Okay, we were talking about changing the perception. I mean, what can be done besides just speaking out, or is it just that simple?
I actually believe that if you're going to affect a cultural change and change stereotypes, it is about having the person not involved in that kind of process begin to accept people. And the only way you do that is when you become comfortable around them, and when you begin to change your view or what the stereotypes are in your head. In my role as the person in charge of development, which is ostensibly a fundraising arm through the Samaritan Foundation, I have to run in circles where there are people that have no affiliation with addiction whatsoever. People who own their own companies, people in the private sector, and invariably, I often introduce myself just the way I did with you tonight, which is to explain my corporate role. And then once I explain the mission of Samaritan and what we do and how we do it, I very often let people know that I am sitting in front of them as a result of the work of Samaritan. More often than not, they're quite taken aback.
The jaw hits the floor?
Jaw hits the floor, they go, no, really, you? I can't believe it, what happened? And I think it's because they don't expect, when they meet me, they don't expect that kind of story. I'm not unique, though. I mean, that's the message when I tell them, I'm not unique. Samaritan has a number of graduates that are in very powerful and high-profile positions. Being on your show once before, we had 2 of our graduates who were quite open and honest to talk about what they do. One of them has gone on to an information technology position in a very large publishing house. Another one is also working at a large accounting firm now. And they're quite proud, and they have been embraced as recovering people with no kind of stigma attached, no kind of prejudice in their ability to rise in their workplace. What I'd like to do is get people to really open up their hearts and their minds and take a chance on somebody who's in recovery. If you own a company and someone's going to come to you, through Samaritan Village, or you want to be able to hire someone and give them a second chance and contact Samaritan Village, be open-minded. These can be the most grateful employees you will ever get and become very loyal and very proud of who they are and put a great face to your organization.
Right. I mean, I know a lot of people who just come out and say all the time, people can't change. People can't change. I mean, broken record.
Yeah.
I mean, you are obviously living proof that people can change.
Absolutely. My personal story, not to bore everybody out there, is I had a 20-year heroin addiction. I really did a lot of damage, obviously, to my body, to my family, to friends, to careers, to marriages. That's a lot of damage to undo. But I also came to Samaritan Village, gained great insight into myself, had my esteem built back up, and was able to move from treatment into a job at Bellevue Hospital. They took a chance with me. Someone else in recovery extended a hand. And from there, I came back to Samaritan to work and have risen through the ranks. I'm not unique, though. Far from it. I have many friends who are in other fields. There's one person in mind that I'm not going to mention his name, is a Samaritan graduate who went on to develop his own IT company. He now is the president of an organization that has an entire floor in a building on Madison Avenue, and takes meetings and does all these, and does lunch and does all these things that the so-called straight world does. And unless he self-discloses, which he has to people, no one would know he's a recovering person. But because he self-discloses, he puts another face and chips away at that stigma people have and that stereotype people have on addicts and the potential for change in recovery.
Is there a right time to quote-unquote come out?
I think everyone needs to have some insight into that for themselves. Certainly, as with other
and you say, hi, I'm an addict.
No, yeah. I think you need to pick your shot. I think, and just as there were stigmas attached to, homosexuality and other affiliations, if you will, you have to pick your shots, and you have to understand when it is the right time for you to do that. No one should force you to do it. I certainly wouldn't break anyone's anonymity for the simple fact that people do have those prejudices.
Preconceived notions.
Preconceived notions and prejudices. For me, I think no matter what field I would be in, I'd be proud of who I was. I'm not proud of who I was, but I'm certainly happy to be where I'm at today. And I'm quite open and honest about talking about who I was before.
Okay, and we do have a caller. We have our first caller, Lewis. Lewis, whenever you're ready, tell us your question or comment.
Yes, it's very important what I when I watch it in TV. I'm an ex-addict. I'm clean for 35 years.
Congratulations.
Yes, and I think, and that's the way I feel. And in the United States, I'm the only one. That's the way I feel. I don't know, maybe somebody else. They are clean for 35 years because I've been looking for a partner that I could relate, about anything. But it's hard to find somebody out there who is clean, And the only people that you could find that is clean, there's people that still working for the program or still communicating with the program. You see, when I graduated from the program that I used to be for, I was there for almost 7 years. I'm from the old time. I started using drugs 1969, and I stopped using drugs 1972. And I got 3 OD. I died 3 times. And maybe because God need me to help others. That's the reason why I'm here. And I went through so much in life that I would recommend to other people who want to try drugs not to do it, because I'm clean for 35 years and I still going through changes. I still going through changes even though I don't use that cocaine, heroin, and alcohol. And I still going through the same changes because you never well. Your mind still working and function because you always going to find some negative people out there. Always. And sometimes the person that you get close is the one who want to put you down. But what I did, I got so paranoid that I'm being clean for 35 years. Can I tell you the truth? By myself. I did it all by myself because every time I was trying to look for help, negative person. I go to this one, negative. And then what I did to survive, I took this guy from the street that he was on drugs, and what I did, I helped him with all my knowledge that I know. And what I do now, when I need help, I go to him. And what I did, I use that man. I put all my therapy in that person because he used to be in drugs. Now he's clean for 19 years. That kid. You know,
there are organizations like Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous where you can go and share your experiences and meet other people that have a similar desire to stay clean in spite of all the obstacles that come up from living a clean life, which is life on life's terms. You may want to check that out and go there just to begin to socialize with other people that have some clean time under their belt and are living life on life's terms.
Very, and you look very. I was watching you on TV, and you look very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, you look like you have some type of energy.
Thank you.
Could help. Yeah, if I'm clean for 35 years, I know any move that you could make on TV, I know you clean and I know you dirty. You very clean.
Thank you, my friend.
You clean
it's 90. A natural high.
You clean 100%.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And I hope God continue helping you. And in the near future, I see you, very very top. In very good position because you deserve a very good position.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
There'll be a website and a phone number at the end of the show. And remember, you said you're alone. You are not alone.
No, because it's what I did. I used somebody, and with all my knowledge, that guy absorbed all my all my therapy. And what I did, I using that guy. Everything that I know, I teach him, and then when I need help, I go to him, and everything that I teach him, he throw it back to me.
That's the way Narcotics Anonymous works, and I think you'd be a valuable person to go there. You have a lot of experience. Obviously, if you connected with someone else who had a problem and they listened and were able to change, I think you ought to be able to go there and share that with some people who are similar-minded to you.
Oh, yeah.
So, please find a Narcotics Anonymous meeting where you are and just walk in and introduce yourself and say your name is Lewis, and you'll have a bunch of friends reaching out to you.
Okay, that'll be
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for your help.
Okay.
Thank you for calling, Lewis.
Thank you.
And you can call in as well. We are live, and our phone number is 460-9802. And I touched on with Lewis the alone word.
Yeah.
Is that a problem with that a lot of people feel before they get into?
Well, the idea of addiction, there's a certain amount of feeling unique, which is one of the lies that is fed to you through the disease. No one understands me. Nobody knows who I am. I can't do what that person did. I can't stop. It's been my experience, and I have 15 years clean. It's been my experience that I am not unique. Whether it's a difference in the drugs, my upbringing, my cultural background, my educational background, whatever the differences may be, there is some thread that runs between all addicts, especially those seeking recovery. That's the thread of a desire to stop using, change your life from being unmanageable to productive, and the need and the desire for support from one another. In that respect, no addict is truly unique. The idea is to find one another, support one another, and help each other change. It's not easy. It's a very difficult process, but it's certainly not impossible. Since the inception of AA back in the 50s and Narcotics Anonymous in the 60s, thousands of people have moved on and changed their lives. Samaritan Village has been around for 45 years. Thousands of people have changed their lives through the interaction of therapeutic communities and other treatment providers. If there's one thing I've seen through the years in working in the admissions department, you don't have to try and do this alone. There is a whole host of organizations and treatment providers that are there to show you that and help you that. All you need to do is call.
Is it that simple? I mean, how do people generally find you? I mean, they just bottoming out and
usually people find us. There are a number of ways people find Samaritan. One of them is word of mouth through recovering people. Another one is Yellow Pages, website, fellowship at Narcotics Anonymous meetings, other treatment providers, maybe short-term detoxes, short-term rehabs, will tell people that you need a longer stay in treatment, or this is a continuum of treatment. Our admissions department number for information is 718-657-6195. That's our admissions department number. What will happen when you call there is you will be set up with an interview to come in and see us so that we can see if we have the services you need. Very often, just that connection allows an addict who is desperate, hopeless, and sees no future, just the knowledge that they can come in and speak to somebody is enough to give them the hope to move forward in the recovery process. I encourage anybody who either knows someone who is devastated by the disease of addiction, or if you yourself are watching this, to pick up the phone and call and make sure that you are persistent and consistent. Chase your recovery as if you chase your drugs. And every addict knows what I'm talking about out there.
Okay, and we do have another caller. We have Jackie on the line. Jackie, whenever you're ready, say hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. I'm from Long Island. I'm 19 years old, and I began using about a year ago, and I've been clean on and off for like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wondering, I started using cocaine. Actually, I had an eating disorder, and I actually started using cocaine because it helped me to not eat.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize I was addicted until I started stealing money from my family,
mm-hmm.
and going out till all hours of the night. And I realized every day I was using, and I could not stop. And basically, after I went to school this year, I was living with my boyfriend, and he basically offered me an ultimatum, either stop using or that's it, it's over. And we were pretty serious. I'm still with him now. And basically he's the only thing that's keeping me clean because I love him so much and everything. And I was actually wondering, do you have any advice for me because, like, I've been trying really hard, but it just seems like every time I go home from school, it just seems like the feeling is overwhelming to continue using. And I've cut all ties with, like, everybody that I knew that I was using it with, and I didn't contact anybody for a really long time. I was basically cut off from everybody, even my friends who, like, tried to keep me clean. And I was just wondering, basically, if you have any advice for somebody like me who's trying to stay clean but is having, like, a problem with it.
Yeah, I definitely. First of all, I admire your insight into how you got addicted and the fact that you obviously have a problem and you want to do something with it. I would recommend a couple of things. First of all, I don't know if you're in any type of therapy at the moment, but certainly if you're able to, either through parents' medical or your own, whatever, I would get into therapy, individual therapy. It would allow you an hour of time, one-on-one, for yourself, by yourself, with a therapist to explore some of the issues that may have led you to eating disorders and abusing cocaine. That's the first thing I would do. In addition to that, I would definitely investigate going to support groups, 12-step support groups, Narcotics Anonymous. There are anonymous programs for just about everything now, including Overeaters Anonymous and people with eating disorders. But I would go to Narcotics Anonymous. I would share that struggle you're having in staying clean, and you will find overwhelming support from the women in those rooms. In addition to that, you might want to explore going to outpatient treatment services, where there would be group counseling. Samaritan has outpatient services. If you'd like to jot down the number, I can give you that number.
Okay, sure.
The number is 718-206-1990. Those are our outpatient service offices. I would suggest you give them a call. But really, I think the other two options as well would be part of a really strong foundation in getting you the help that you need. There is absolutely no reason for you to struggle like this alone.
Yeah.
None. Those are the three separate pieces of advice I would give you.
Okay.
And continue undeterred.
Right.
You mentioned that you cut people loose who weren't good for you.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I admire that. You know, to do that without the benefit of either therapy or Narcotics Anonymous or other support groups shows a great desire to stop and change your life.
Right. The whole thing was that, like, this is like over the summer it became like a really big problem.
Yeah.
And I went to school. I went to college for my fall semester, and not only was it hard for me to get it, but it was also like I found out that at that point it was taking over because, like, I wouldn't go to class, I wouldn't do my work, I wouldn't do anything, and like it was overwhelming. So I realized, like, I'm going to screw up everything if I keep doing this, so I just cut it out completely, like cold turkey by myself. Basically, I did it with my boyfriend. Like, I went through a lot of withdrawal. He helped me through everything. He's been the most supportive person I've ever met, and I really, like, I attribute a lot of that to him. Also, like, I guess to me, I mean, I don't know.
Without a doubt. I mean, you're obviously, blessed with some insight and a will to live that lets you do some really amazing things, and you need to hear that from someone who struggled for 20 years with this. What you did is amazing, and you need to continue on this path, but I think you've got enough brains to realize you can't continue to do this fight alone, nor should you have to. So I would get on the phone tomorrow, find yourself a therapist in your area, pick one that you have a connection with. Don't just go to the first guy or woman, and move forward from there. And call the Narcotics Anonymous hotline and get to a meeting.
Okay.
All you have to do is say, "Hi, I'm Jackie, and I'm struggling to stay clean," and you'll find the women there very supportive.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Do you find Jackie's story?
Yeah, Jackie's story is again, not unique. I mean, especially for women, I've heard many stories about women who have eating disorders that lead them to drugs to kind of help them with their anorexia or bulimia or whatever the eating disorder might be, and they wind up addicted to those substances. The good news is that all of these things are treatable.
Right.
All of this is treatable. If you flash back X number of years, there was no hope. I mean, you know, going back to the 50s, an addict was an addict was an addict, period, until you either died or were institutionalized.
If there's no other message tonight, there is hope and there is help.
Without a doubt. I sit here in the light of recovery and declaring my recovery so that people will know there is hope for anyone.
Okay, and I want to remind our viewers, you are watching Talking About, and our topic tonight is addiction and recovery. My guest is Arnie Razumny of Samaritan Village, and we do have a call on the line. Neil, whenever you're ready, just say hello. Neil?
Hello?
Hi, Neil.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Arnie. How you doing?
Good.
Hold on for a second. In the room. In the room. In the room now.
Okay. The benefits of live TV.
Yeah. The question is this, right? Arnie, first of all, I want to thank you guys for even like having this on television. You know, it's very rare that you even find this out there. And I participated in Samaritan's outpatient services out in Jamaica at one point.
Okay.
Right now, my situation is this. I'm in a sober house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, okay. And the situation, you know, I attend meetings regularly. You know, I do a lot of meetings out in Southern Queens.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my sponsor suggested to me the other day that, you know, that I really need to, like, start taking life, I guess, by the horns again and stop more or less hiding out in the sober house. You know, I don't come, you know, I'm in a house where a lot of guys are, like, hanging out for Section 8. You know, their homeless situation is what it is. And, you know, I came from, you know, working, paying bills, doing the right thing. You know, I put together 5.5 years and making some bad choices out there, and I relapsed. And it's taken me, like, almost a year and a half to kind of, like, get back on track or get some clarity, so to speak. And the clarity's there, and honestly and truly, like, I really have been, like, you know how they say mind your business? I've been minding my business. You know, I wasn't trying to make any decisions on my own. And, you know, now, you know, the other day my sponsor says to me, well, Neil, I think it's time for you to go back to work and do what you got to do. I'm going to be attending LaGuardia Community College in March. You know, I want to be an EMT. I want to help save some lives, you know. And so I got, like, all my stuff, pretty much financial aid stuff squared away and all that, you know what I mean? So, you know, things are happening. But there is such a fear of screwing this thing up again, man, that it's like sometimes, you know, it just really, really, really terrifies me, man, to the point where, like, I'm almost so afraid to do it. You know, but I know that I have to get back into the business of living again because it's life on life's terms. Right. So, you know, I guess my question is basically, how, is it just like Nike, just do it? Or is it, you know, is there should I graduate? Because my thing was like, well, maybe I should just gradually try to work my way back in. And I'm currently in a place called, you know, the place is Interline. I don't know if you ever heard of it, Arnie, or not, but it's kind of it's really a house type of situation. It's really not geared towards like a reentry phase and all that kind of stuff. It's like you're here, and then like once your time is up here, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And if you don't have your living situation squared away, it's time to go.
Okay.
Oh well, you know. So he tells me to, you know, go ahead, go back to work. And then I'm like, well, I want to go to school because, you know, I don't have to work right now because, you know, the PA thing, da-da-da. And he's like, well, everybody else in the world works and goes to school. You know what I mean? So why not you?
How old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay.
And you know, I just don't want to mess up anymore, man. You know what I mean?
Hey, nobody does. But you also know that this is a bridge back to life.
Right.
You can't stay stuck at the toll gate. You got to cross the bridge. And you had how many years clean?
5.5.
You had 5.5 years clean.
3. Well, let me be clear about the 5.5. 3 of them were in prison. I stopped. You know, I mean,
there's
you
as
know,
much
I don't know
drugs
if you
in
know,
prison,
but
my friend, as there are in the street, and you know that.
Yeah. So
you had 5 years clean. You've got back 1.5 years now, right?
No, I'm working on 90 days now.
Oh, now you're working on 90 days.
Yeah, I just made 60 days the 5th.
Well, 5 years clean, they can't take anything away from you. You have the knowledge and understanding of what a clean life is. You have good plans to go back to LaGuardia College and get yourself a career. Let me tell you the way we do it in Samaritan residentially. Many people have ideas of what their career should be, but they need to leave Samaritan. Nobody has a lifetime contract to live there.
Right.
So you need to be employed. You need to budget your money. You need to have a support group in place. You say you go to meetings.
Yeah, regularly.
What's your support group like?
We're pretty tight. We call each other regularly. You know, if 2 days go by, you know, the alarms go off on everybody's end. Like, where are you? What's going on?
Sounds pretty good to me.
How are you? All of that kind of stuff.
It definitely sounds pretty good to me that you have people who obviously care about you, you care about. I think it's time to take some of the advice of your sponsor and at least begin to put one foot in the water. You got to start looking for work, looking for work.
Well, I have a commercial driver's license.
Then get to what's stopping
getting a job is, 1, 2, 3. I can drive an ambulette tomorrow, you know.
So what's the problem?
Fear.
Of,
I guess, being successful.
Well,
I don't know.
Those are issues.
I would be calling you, man.
Those issues, they're valid issues.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, fear of screwing it up again. You know.
But you can't live your life based on fear. You cannot do that. You're not living your life. Right. I ran the admissions department at Samaritan for 10 years. At 49 years old, I decided to change my career path. I was petrified to do it. I had people hold my hand and walk me through it because that's the kind of support I have in my life.
Right.
It sounds to me like you have that kind of support in your life. If people don't let you go for 2 days without a phone call, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, they don't.
And if you're going to meetings consistently and you're sharing openly and honestly, there's plenty of people. Nobody's going to let you hit your knees. You may get weak in them, but they're not going to let you hit your knees. Don't live your life in fear because you're going to have too much time pass you by.
One more, and I'm gonna. I know somebody else wants to.
But really, I hope you're hearing what I'm saying.
I'm looking
it's
at
be
you.
Okay.
I'm hearing you, man.
Okay.
Seriously, my face is. They gave you a close up, and now I'm getting closer to the TV.
Uh-oh. Didn't scare you?
No.
Right.
But what about the time factor?
What about it?
Me not having. I thought maybe I should maybe have 6 months back first, or.
Time is an important factor. I'm not going to minimize its importance. But you also had a block of time under your belt.
Right.
That's like saying, if I go to a 4-year college and I don't use what I learned in there, you can't take my knowledge away.
Right.
Nobody can take away your experience, the internalized experience of what it's like to live clean. Mm-hmm. That's part of the reasons you tried it again. It's part of the reasons you're back with 90 days, is because inside you understand what it's like to live clean. Now you have that knowledge. You have 90 days under your belt.
Almost.
You have a sponsor. You have a support group. It's time to put a foot into the water. Listen, I woke up at 6 this morning. If you woke up at 7, I'm 1 hour cleaner today than you are.
There you go, right.
You got it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Nobody knows if I walk out this door and I use.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about time, my 15 years has given me experience. But today is all we have. So if you're clean today and I'm clean today, depends what time you got up, how much cleaner I am than you.
Thank you, man.
You got it, man.
All right, thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Is that a common factor? I'm afraid of success. I'm afraid of failure.
Without a doubt. But I think that's generic through most people's lives, not just recovering people. Fear. I'm not Tony Roberts, but if you hear about any of these self-help things, it's always telling you to face your fears, walk through your fears. And if anybody sits for a minute and thinks about something they were very afraid of and finally confronted and came out the other side of, you always engross these fears. They are just that. They're feelings. They're emotions. If you have the support you need and you have the common sense to see red flags when they go up, you'll be fine.
Make the phone call, ask for help.
Ask for help. And you know what? Mistakes are just that. They're mistakes. A guy like Tony wasn't on the phone, I believe. Tony on the phone. You got to realize you're not going to do everything perfectly. There's one thing I've done perfectly for the last 15 years. No matter what happens today, I don't pick up. I don't complicate my life, no matter what happens. That's what's taught at Samaritan. So I think that anyone can face their fears if they lay a foundation of support, realize that they faced fears before, and can move through them again.
Okay.
I think it's going to be fine.
Okay, and with that thought, we do have another caller. Albert?
Yes.
Hi, Albert.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm calling in reference. I'm a recovering substance abuser, and I went through programs at the VA, and it's kind of strange to me. It seemed like.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you turn down your TV or step away from the TV and start over? We just got a load of feedback through that.
All right, there you go.
Much better.
Okay, now this is the thing. Like, as far as like when you go to groups and recovery meetings, it seemed like I've seen a lot of things where people, it was like you in what you call them a drugstore, because a lot of guys with their horror stories and they'll sit back, and then some of the guys, hey, they was you could get this here and you can get that there, and then it seemed like to me, it was a run with some drugs that it was killing people, and it's madness. Like one cat would sit back and say, where they got that at? And they would run, literally. They would break their recovery time up, they clean time, and then they'll run and then put themselves at risk of death behind you heard about this guy, they got this stuff. And, it's bad,
When you go to any of these groups or support programs, or in fact, if you come into an environment like Samaritan Village, I want you to understand you're dealing with people. The programs may be perfect in their structure, but the people are not. What you need to do, what anybody needs to do when they go to these Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, or whatever support you get, whether it's Samaritan Village, residential or outpatient, remind yourself of the reason you're there. Not everyone is going to have the same motivation. Not everyone is going to be able to grasp the program and all its components at the same pace. But remember that this is an imperfect world with imperfect people, and they're trying. Sometimes their struggle doesn't look like yours. Focus on yourself, maintain a positive attitude, and understand that if you continue to do that consistently, you, in fact, may have an influence on them.
That sounds good.
Okay? You must make, if you are seeking to help yourself, the surrounding negativity can't bring you down. You must look at yourself as someone who may, if it's meant to be, bring people up around you. In any event, you maintain and stay the course.
Yes, that sounds good. Myself, as I say, New Year's, I just sat in the house. My daughters came into town, and I just sat and ate, and we watched movies and talk.
What's better than that?
There's nothing better than that.
Did you wake up with a hangover the next day?
No.
Did you wake up with your money missing?
No.
No. Did you wake up with your daughters embarrassed about who you are?
No.
What's better than that?
Nothing.
Nothing. You had a great New Year's, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
That's right.
And then it seemed like everything that's happening now, as far as things that I've been trying to put myself forward to, is happening. As I say, stay clean and you'll grow.
Let me tell you, part of my philosophy is, someone told me this, I didn't invent this. If you look at your recovery like a dot on the wall, and you focus on that dot, there's such a thing as periphery vision. You know the way you look at one thing and you can see other things coming in? If you maintain your focus on that dot on the wall, all of the rest of the life will come in for you. So you just keep your eye on your recovery, and everything else will happen for you.
Okay, where are you located?
We're at, that's a good question. I forgot. 13802 Queens Boulevard.
13802
Queens Boulevard in Briarwood. The admissions department number is 718-657-6195.
6195.
My president is watching this. I probably won't be working there because I forgot the address.
No,
Just kidding.
you're doing just fine.
Thank you. I'm going to tell him you said so.
All right, thank you, and God
Thank
bless
you. God bless
You're a good man.
Thank you very much for calling.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's a very positive result there, just living life.
Yeah, living life. I mean, this process of coming out of addiction, deciding you want help, and then seeking the help it's not easy. You're surrounded by people whose motivations and desires are not the same as yours might be. My personal experience, even at Samaritan, was the fact that I was only one of 2 people to complete the program the year that I did it. And there were literally, dozens and dozens of people that came through my component in Samaritan. It was difficult. While the people were falling by the wayside and picking up and relapsing and not committing to doing things the way Samaritan's treatment program is laid out, I felt very much, separated from them. And it was only until the staff members told me, listen, keep your eye on what you're doing.
Hello?
Don't change for other people. I managed to successfully complete the program. And, I've managed to stay clean for 15 years. So it's really about, your motivation and commitment and consistency one day at a time. To be cliched, but it's the truth.
And do a lot of people fall by the wayside?
It's an insidious disease,
Yeah.
The disease of addiction. It's hard to maintain your sobriety in a world where there are different temptations. However, if you do the things that are suggested to you, you can do it. I'm living proof of that. Right. I've got myself a great support group. I live my life with integrity and dignity and with a desire to help other people. Right. That fulfills me. I think that if you listen to the suggestions, they work. If you choose to ignore them, you still may skate by, but it's much more difficult.
Okay, and we are live. We're taking calls, 718-460-9802, and right now we have Ram on the phone. Ram?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think you're doing a terrific program.
Thank you very much.
And I think, programs like these are needed because from my community, my ethnic community, because of addiction problems, you had one man or a couple of people are arrested for murder, people who were drinking.
Mm.
So, that's one side of it. So along with the addiction and with other problems like that, you have a foray of other problems. But all I got to say is thank you for a wonderful program.
You make a very good point. One of the reasons that I feel it's important to step into the spotlight and declare myself a recovering person, and my hope, as many other people will, is to change the perception and thereby changing the public's view of what addiction is, and to speak about the repercussions of addiction. It's not only about my destructive behavior towards myself. Addiction spreads throughout, its implications and impacts stretch throughout society. It appears through the money we pay in taxes. For every $7 for every dollar you spend on treatment, you save 7 in the correctional facilities, where there are people being housed that are suffering from a disease, and their actions cause them to either rob, steal, mug, whatever it is. Rather than incarcerate them and not rehabilitate them.
Treatment.
Let's spend money on treatment to deal with the disease and have people come out productive members of society. You have medical impacts where emergency rooms are filled with people overdosing. The contraction of HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, and the burden on all of us as taxpayers for that. If you take a look at if we look at addiction and look at the recovery process as being effective and the fact that treatment works, it will benefit all of us, whether we use drugs or not. And that's the reason I want to step into the light and say, listen, I'm a recovering person. You no longer have to pay for me in jail. I now pay taxes. I'm able to benefit my community. You don't have me in an emergency room overdosed. You know, if I had children, they wouldn't have to go into foster care that you would pay for, let alone the fact that they would grow up without a parent. These are the repercussions that addiction causes, and the public, and more importantly, the politicians who are our financial planners, right? We give them money. We tell them to, our taxes. How do you want to spend our money? They're going to spend the money they want to. Well, if we tell them that, listen, treatment works, don't cut budgets for this, put money towards it, because you'll be saving money all over the place. I mean, if I had a financial planner that wanted to, not invest $1 in something that would reap me $7 of rewards, I'd fire him. But that's the case today. Correctional facilities, and they're looking to expand jail cells rather than treatment slots. Any addict that picks up a phone should get treatment on demand. They shouldn't have to wait. That window of opportunity can close very quickly. And it's important to have treatment available when someone seeks it. The jails are filled with people, literally filled with people, who have been separated from their children, who are now involved in more criminal activity, and who are not being rehabilitated because they suffer from the disease of addiction. And, I think your caller made an excellent point. The repercussions and ramifications stretch far and wide.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So, that's a staggering number. I mean, 1 in 7.
Yeah, there are many more statistics that I'm in the process of putting together a report on for public consumption, so that we can really understand. People are tired, really, of hearing, I think, and the feedback I get. People know about the homeless guy in the corner, the guy in the subway who asks for money, and they're tired of hearing about the ravages and the devastation of addiction. It's in their face all the time. Well, let me give you, and I'll put together some statistics about how much money you can save by treating addiction. How much, less of a tax burden it would be if you treated the addict rather than incarcerate them. These numbers are staggering. The African American population is being decimated because, there are so many people incarcerated. You look at Russell Simmons is picking up the gauntlet and saying, listen, we've got to do something to stop these wanton attacks on the African American community, because there is an addiction problem. It's not a criminal problem. It's about addiction. You don't need to jail people. You need to help them. 60 Minutes did a recent show on mandatory sentencing. These are not drug kingpins. These are people who had a specific amount of drugs and then get 12 to 15 years in jail, for no reason. It's about, making people's lives better, not worsening them. That's what the government should be involved in.
Okay, and speaking, making people's lives better, let's see how we can help John. We have John on the line.
Hey, John.
John, hi, my name is John.
Hi, John.
I want to just tell you, I've been working with addictions for quite a few years in a treatment center in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard you say that you thought that treatment was successful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, treatment is a viable option, and I think it is successful, but unfortunately, from where I'm sitting and from where I'm working, treatment seems to not work more times than it does. I'm not arguing that we shouldn't have treatment, because the alternative would be what? It would be disaster.
I think you answered your own question.
Yeah, but the drain on the system and the number of successes is very small compared to the people that continually recycle themselves through the system.
That's true. I don't disagree with you in the fact that this is not necessarily a business, if you will, where the success rate is phenomenal, and I can sit here and tout success rates. What I can say, though, is there is no other option.
Right.
And the options that are available now are far worse, and that just because you're in the field,
yes,
so you know that this is an ongoing science, this treatment. If you go back, I don't know how long you're in the field, but if you
I've been
go
in
back a
rehab
number of
quite a
years
few
ago,
years, yeah.
there was this draconian method of providing treatment where, the mythology, which it was not, but it's actually history, is we'd shave your head, we'd demean you, we would make you do all kinds of labor-intensive things that just would not address any kind of issues. We've changed since then as the information and as the data is collected onto what really works and what makes those, whether you decide they're few, and I don't think, if one person is cured from the life they were in and move on to a more productive life, I think that's fantastic. But if you look at what works and assess that data, you skew treatment to meet that need. It's an ongoing science. If I were to tell you 10 years ago that there was no genetic predisposition to addiction, I would have been right because nothing had been shown to do that. Now there's ongoing science to say there is possibly a genetic predisposition.
Well, there are a lot of studies that do show some, linkage, and the percentages of children who are addicted, it's greater in homes where there's addiction. Now, whether that's genetic or social learning, because those children are probably seeing their parents drink and use on a regular basis, so they think it's part of an everyday lifestyle.
Right.
So they follow that.
So let me ask you this: in those families, I have second and third generation family members coming into Samaritan, right?
Yes.
That doesn't mean that with this generation of person who comes in now, they won't break that cycle. I mean, it's important to continue the process so that we can move forward rather than not.
Well, I don't disagree with that. But when I watch you, I thought I didn't see the very beginning of the show, but I believe you said that you are recovering.
I am in recovery. Yes.
You are, from what I can see, the top 1%. You've done very well, and you are very unusual and very successful.
I disagree with you, and in the beginning of the program is what I stated. I'm not talking volume.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking the number of people that come in versus the number of people that leave and go on to have successful lives. I'm talking about regardless of that number, because you gotta have a certain amount of social consciousness to say, this is not automobiles we're creating. These are not good automobiles that are coming out. But if there's a percentage of people that are going on to have good, fulfilling lives and are positive influences on their children and are paying, their debt to society
Mm-hmm.
and paying taxes and doing these things, it's essential that work continues. I'm not unique. I'm not that unique. There are people that you don't even know. That's the point of my being here today, is to say that the chairman of the board of some companies are in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
They choose not to tell you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that is the case. How do we move on from here and go? But the cost to the state and to the government is enormous. I mean,
it's far less than building more prisons.
I agree with that. I mean, ethically, it's the right thing to do. Humanistically, it's the right thing to do, regardless of the cost.
Right.
But it's an expensive proposition. I don't know what alternatives we have to it.
Well, you do know the alternatives. If I were to tell you that I would not spend the money on treatment, if I was, the governor, and I would eliminate drug treatment in New York,
that would be
what would be the alternative?
That would be a recipe for disaster in our
Exactly. So, you would have to build huge wings on hospitals, to handle the medical implications.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to build huge units on the existing jails to handle the criminal aspects. And you would have to increase the foster care system for the abandoned children you would have here.
Yeah.
So there is no alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Is it cheap? It's a lot cheaper than those alternatives.
It's expensive, but the alternative is even more expensive.
Exactly.
Listen, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate the call. How do we go about convincing the politicians that this is necessary?
Well, I think it's a matter of this is my personal opinion, and it's not necessarily Samaritan's opinion, but I'll speak as a recovering individual. I think it's important that the public realizes that I'm not unique. Your last caller said I'm maybe one of the top 1% of recovering people and unusual in that regard. I'm not. If the politicians knew, if the public knew that there are many other executives, secretaries, everyone, came out of the darkness and into the light, the public would say, listen, this really works. The public guides the politicians. And they would be able to demand, listen, if these people can come back and be productive members of society, why am I incarcerating them? Why isn't there mandatory alternatives to incarceration? Samaritan is in the forefront of doing that. We have people that are mandated to treatment, cuts down on recidivism, and lets people return to society as productive members. And I think it's about declaring who you are and what you are, as long as you can stand the heat.
Okay. We have about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
And in those 2 minutes, what would you say to help get people to reach out?
Yeah, I think what's really important is that I had 20 years of heroin addiction, and one of the reasons I was out there so long is because I didn't know where to go. I mean, it may seem strange in this day and age, but again, it was, 15 years ago when I finally came into treatment. You should know that there is help. I'll repeat again Samaritan's admissions department number. It's 718-657-6195. If you have a problem, if you want to get help, talk to somebody at Samaritan. If you know somebody, motivate them to call Samaritan. I think that the more people know there is help, the more they are likely to reach out and ask for it. We talked about fear earlier with one of your callers.
Right.
Don't be afraid. All the information is totally confidential. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to help you. Face the fear. There is life after addiction.
Okay, which is a good point to wrap up on. There'll be a toll-free number up during the closing credits, or there is more information on our website, which is www.talkingabout.info, I-N-F-O, or you can write to us at Box 20713, Floral Park, New York, 11002, and I answer everything. So with that, I thank you for joining me. It's been a great hour. We got a lot of good information out there, and I hope you'll come back sometime soon.
I would be happy to, and thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to talk to the people out there.
Thanks again. I'm John Griffith. You've been watching Talking About, and I will see you next time.